It all starts with one thought, one movement, one step to break the cycle, to start your journey. It's time to carve your own path, walk your own trail, explore endless greenery, cities and shoreline around you. So what are you waiting for? One path, one street, one step at a time.
I'm Geary. I'm here at Parkville Market, and I'm standing with Mark and Michelle Maturo here at Twisted Italian Cafe. I know you filled me up on lunch today, but I have a couple of questions for you to tell me a little bit about your story. Michelle, what was it about Parkville Market that made you want to bring Twisted Italian Cafe here?
Well, it's a great addition to Hartford, and certainly we've been in the business for 30 years. We are industry veterans, and when Parkville came about, we just found this to be an excellent opportunity for us to have our own eatery. Not a full-scale restaurant, but the perfect space to really showcase Mark's true Italian heritage and his excellent cuisine. He's 100% Italian, and we are bringing the flavor to Hartford and to Parkville.
Yeah, you sure are, and I've tried a few of those flavors. Mark, can you tell me a little bit about the menu and the flavor that you try to bring and what you think Twisted Italian Cafe adds to Parkville?
Sure. You know, I mean, for the most part, they're just simple, just very well prepared flavors. We're not doing anything fancy or complicated. We're focusing on our giant grinders, but all the dishes are made completely fresh, making my homemade ricotta cheese to go with the meatballs. Everything's handmade, nothing is fried or, you know, we're doing it the right way.
Truly authentic, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're a recent addition to Parkville Market, relatively speaking. What are your customers saying about the food that they're trying?
We've had a lot of return customers and a lot of people excited that we're here.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people coming in with other people saying, hey, you got to try these guys out.
Yeah.
Come on in, you know, bringing more people to us. So, you know, we hope to gain more popularity and
Word's getting out.
Word's getting out. I think what you're saying
out.
is if you're coming down to Parkville Market with your friends, this is a great spot to try out some twisted Italian cuisine.
Movement with purpose.
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 My name is Summer Sivitz, and I'm the manager of philanthropic events at Connecticut Children's. The most rewarding part of organizing Team Connecticut Children's is the joy that we receive from the patients and the families who all participate with us every October. We have overcome our challenges by taking one step at a time, just like all of our families do at Connecticut Children's. Take one day at a time, one diagnosis at a time, and collectively, we find success. Team Connecticut Children's has participated in the Eversource Hartford Marathon for over 15 years. We continue to be the largest charity that participates in the marathon with over 200 participants every single year. Team Connecticut Children's collectively raises about $125,000 a year for Connecticut Children's. This helps fund different divisions, including hematology and oncology, IBD, and you name it.
Hi, I'm Ellen Palmer, co-founder and COO of Healing Meals Community Project. What inspired us to give back to our community by starting Healing Meals was really an opportunity to bring community together so people felt like they could come in and support those in need. We're an organization that makes organic meals for families in a health crisis. So we support our clients who are looking to feel better, but we also support our volunteers to come in and be alongside of each other to give back. I think the most rewarding part of giving back to our community is our young people, really giving our youth volunteers an opportunity to be in the kitchen and get to really feel a deep sense of pride in the work that they're doing. We feel and have seen and experienced just gives them an opportunity to really be impactful in the world. Healing Meals Community Project is involved in the Eversource Hartford Marathon because it's the perfect format to be able to support our clients. All of our clients are struggling with a health crisis and they really can't get out and do all of the things they enjoy doing. So we really feel so grateful that we can be out and move with purpose with our community in support of them. What's so amazing about this experience is it brings all of our constituents together and gives people an opportunity to get involved in a way that they might not already be able to. So we have our corporate sponsors that love giving back to our community. We have runners and walkers who come together to show their support. We have volunteers that don't necessarily like to run or walk, but they want to be able to contribute to the community, and coming together in this way just gives a little something to everybody to feel like they're involved in something really meaningful in the world, especially in times like these.
I love to travel, completely obsessed with it. I get in a car. I have no plans when I get in the car. I just go. And I cannot stop stopping and seeing everything that is on the side of the road.
I'm obsessed with everything. Right now, reading, writing, crossword puzzles, working, origami, you name it. I'm obsessed with this question and answer right now.
I'm obsessed with, I would say, physical fitness. I work out typically twice a week, but outside of that realm, I would say nitro cold brew from Starbucks with sweet cream.
Whole bread, that's it.
A full loaf of bread.
Before sliced bread, I would say maybe dinosaurs or sliced ham.
I love to dance. I was born dancing. I came out of the womb. My twin sister and I have a joke because the way our faces look when we were born, our baby pictures, she said I must have been kicking and dancing in the womb. So I do, yes.
If I had better hip-ear coordination, I would love to dance better than I do.
I dance on occasion. Not sure I love it, but I probably need to have several drinks to get that process underway.
Sliced bread. 24-hour cable news.
I would disinvent social media. I'm not a fan. I know it is very important in every realm of the lives that we live in now, but I find it a den of negativity, and am not a fan of social media. A lot of, family-wise and staying connected is great, but outside of that, I find it frustrating.
Kipchoge, hands down, bam. Great runner, amazing, just inspiring.
Phidippides, because he ran far and he died in the end, yet everybody wanted to mimic what he did.
I really admire everyone that's out running when I see them, every season here in Connecticut. And, we have some harsh ones from the heat and humidity in the summer to the winters that can be, brutally cold and snowy. So I really admire all of the runners that are out there hitting the pavement in all 4 seasons here in Connecticut.
Biggest lesson always is to relax and not stress anything out. I have a tendency to constantly overstress, overwork myself. My brain is going 100 miles an hour. And sometimes I need to reel it back and just, don't stress, don't worry too much.
Biggest lesson I've learned is that there's always learning to do. You can always learn more.
Biggest lesson I've learned so far, and it's one that I'm still learning, is to play well with others in the sandbox.
Cooking, I wish I knew how to cook better. Since the pandemic, my sisters and I started teaching each other every week how to cook, and I realized I still suck. So that is one thing I truly need to work on.
Teleportation.
I would like to have some sort of musical talent, perhaps. Maybe sing. Typically when I sing right now, I have to be by myself in my car with the windows rolled up that are tinted so no one can see me. And then also with the music so loud, I basically can't hear myself.
Hispanic Heritage Month is one. We're in the midst of it. I cannot wait to see runners for the first time and the longest time to run with them. And number 2 is moving to Houston, Texas. I'm really excited about that. I'll be moving soon, and I can't wait.
Sliced bread. I'm also looking forward to when my wife and daughter come home from their sleepover tomorrow. So today, sliced bread. Tomorrow, my wife and daughter.
Right now, with regard to running, I look forward to the moment when we can go back as a group and run together. To do a 5K, a 10K, to do a half marathon with other people without a mask. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. Outside of the running realm, I cannot wait to travel again domestically and abroad.
Movement with purpose.
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 Welcome, everybody, to the Crystal Ball of Running panel, where we're going to talk about what's going to happen in the future, and maybe we will be right, and maybe we won't. We're here with some of the leaders in the industry to talk about running, where it is, where it's going, how great it is, how great it's going to get. I am Jeff Matlow. I'm the president of Running USA. We are the trade organization for the running industry. And I am lucky enough to be with some of the people who not only put on some of the most popular races in the industry, but who are some of the most insightful people in the running business. So I'm honored to be with you all to be talking about running and listen, we see a lot of negative stuff in the news. So I'm excited to talk about some positive things here of what we're doing and where we're going. So let's start with some introductions. Jan, let's start with you.
Great. My name is Jan Seeley, and I am the co-director of the Christie Clinic Illinois Marathon Race Weekend in the Twin City town of Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, where the University of Illinois is. Our event is in its 12th year this year, and I've been with the race since day one.
Awesome. Mike?
Mike Nishi with a group and organization called Chicago Event Management. And we have the privilege of producing the Bank of America Shamrock Shuffle that typically takes place in the spring, in the March in Chicago, as well as the Bank of America Chicago Marathon. So I've been part of the event as general manager ever since 1989. So definitely more years than there are miles in a marathon.
Awesome. Kyle?
I'm Kyle McLaughlin. I'm the global CEO of Tough Mudder, part of the Spartan Race Group family of brands. We operate over 100 events in 20 different countries in a normal year, but it might actually be one event in one country this year, depending on how the Middle East turns out in December.
Middle East US or Middle East?
The UAE.
Okay, wow. And Beth?
Hi, I'm Beth Schluger. I am the president and CEO of the Hartford Marathon Foundation. We produce about 35 events a year in Southern New England. We've been in business since 1984 and produce the Eversource Hartford Marathon.
Awesome, and our host for today, so thank you, Beth. Let me start just in terms of a silver lining of what we're seeing here. Personally, what hobby have you either taken on or doubled down with during this pandemic? Who wants to start?
Well, I might have an obvious answer, Jeff, but my personal running has grown exponentially, and not to sound like I'm giving a shameless plug or a soundbite here, but the difference, I live in suburban New Jersey. Our offices were in Brooklyn for a long time. I was an hour and a half each way on a commute every day, and it really consumed my time to be able to run. So I'm, what was typically 10-mile a week averages for me pre-pandemic is now almost double that. And being able to get some cross training and a stationary bike and a bunch of other different modalities into my fitness.
And you have a young kid at home too. Are you pushing the bob?
We don't do the bob yet, so we're getting there, but work in progress.
Jan?
Yeah, I was going to say, the chance to run and walk and bike more than I usually can, almost probably twice as much, which I've needed to just, manage the emotional part of this. So I would say being able to exercise more. Meditation's become a really big thing for me. I have needed that. And so I would say that's not something that's a new hobby, but something that I have totally doubled down on. So yeah, you're asking one of my favorite questions, which is what have you added and what's not there anymore and what aren't you bringing back? So,
and I think I'm in the same boat with Kyle and Jan in terms of being able to spend more time getting workouts in and more consistently. And unfortunately, I can't run as much as I used to. And so I've been on the bike, and as you know, it takes just twice as long to get on the bike to get the same type of benefit or effect as a run would. And just like Jan, I've been incorporating in my daily routine meditation on a daily basis. In addition to that, been trying to do stretching. So that's something that I've lost over the years while running. And this is the first time in 25 years that I've actually been able to touch my toes without bending my knees. So it's part of my routine that I will continue beyond COVID. And it's been great to be able to do that. It feels so much better. And hopefully because of all that flexibility, I'll be able to increase the miles for my runs.
Stretching, I'm not familiar with that word. I'll look it up later.
I have to say the silver lining is my family, which consists of my husband, my 2 children, their significant others, and my new grandson, Will. We're the bubble. It's just us. And it's been great because my kids are kind of forced to be with me all the time. And I think they're enjoying it. I know I am.
That's awesome. As for me, some hobbies that I've taken up or doubled down on running. So I've really focused on getting slower, and it's working. But now I get slower more often, so I'm running more, and that's great. And writing. I also, little known thing that I usually don't tell people, I'm very much about creativity and science together and math together. So I do origami, and it keeps my mind occupied it's my meditation. So let's talk, I think we've all seen and we've read about how there are a lot of people out there running. I know I'm in Los Angeles. When I go out on the streets for my practically daily runs, it's masses of people out there. What people do races for different reasons. Let's talk about, as we get to where we're going, can you each briefly give an understanding of why people are doing your races in general? What is motivating them to come back to one of your events? Beth, why don't we start with you?
Well, I think there's just a couple simple reasons. One, they come to our races because they know they'll be safe. They know they'll be well organized. We're kind of the McDonald's of the running community in New England, that you can count on us. They will be consistently organized in the same way, and they'll be well organized. So that's number one. And number two, because they need motivation. They need that carrot dangled for them to achieve their goals. And that is what we provide. We're kind of the grandmother of the running family in our region. So we are bringing them together. So, camaraderie is a big reason why people come back to do our races.
Anybody else have any different reasons?
I mean, coming from the obstacle course side of things, we blend running with other types of fitness and in an environment that's really geared towards being social and, for us, non-competitive. We don't have timing, we don't give out medals, there's no podium, so there's no real sense of competition. But for us, it really becomes about being able to prove to yourself that you are capable of doing it. And much to Beth's point about setting a goal, putting a date on the calendar, being able to commit to something that's 3 or 6 or 12 months in the future and work towards that has always been a big driver, in getting people to commit to doing our events. And many times we're pulling people right off the couch, maybe the first thing they've ever done, because they heard of Tough Mudder and they saw that one's going to be in their area, and they want the glory, right, of being able to say, well, I finished one, I did one, I've accomplished one and achieved one. And then when they get there and feel that experience, it's about the human connection and the camaraderie, to Beth's point, the experience of being able to help other people do things that you probably can't do on your own. And that's the big part for me that's missing as we've seen virtual events and people running independently. And I think my hope, and I truly believe, that there is a big sense of pent-up demand, right? People want to be back together again. They want to be back at concerts, at festivals, at races, at live events, because that shared sense of human connection is so important to who we are. And Zoom happy hours are only going to scratch the surface in replacing that for people. So it's just the balance of safety versus kind of community, and when we can start to shift in the other direction.
I think the comeback is going to be way bigger than the setback. It's just, when is that comeback going to be? Just a couple things about our race. I mean, I've said this before, that I like to think about our event, which is a seven different distances over 3 days. So there's really, something for everybody, that I don't think about it as one event, but with 16,000 runners, but 16,000 individual races, and everybody has a story, and we want to know what that story is. So we've worked really hard to try to personalize that experience as much as possible, which starts very simply with making sure that we respond to every email and phone call, but also, personalized name bibs, personalized shirts, first time runner back bibs, things like that really make people feel like they're having a unique and personal experience. Another thing is sort of the family reunion aspect. We are the Illinois Marathon, and Mike's race is obviously worldwide, international, but we get about 89% of our runners from the state. So it is kind of the signature race to do in the state. And we see family members across many generations all coming together on race week, and you can see them with their team shirts, their family shirts. And I don't know whether it's because Champaign-Urbana is a Big Ten town, we like to tailgate and gather in groups, but that spirit has really carried over, and that's kind of a wonderful thing to see. And of course the university itself, that chance to finish in the stadium is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing in terms of our event, just like what you just heard, Jeff, in terms of creating those unforgettable experiences. And we like to take that and inspire individuals to connect with and give back to their communities. So we are looking forward to that opportunity to bring people back together so that we can do that. And I think that's going to be important when we have the ability to raise funds for those charities, for volunteerism, and finding those opportunities to reconnect and re-engage with our communities that we love, support, we service, as well as we play and live and work. So we are looking forward to be able to do that again with our community.
Yeah, those are all great points. I was sitting with my family this weekend, and my sister-in-law, who's a runner, but not in the running industry, said, "Hey, I have a great idea." I'm like, "Awesome, what's your idea?" She said, "Why don't you just make start lines, the starting time, longer? So, you start with less people, and then you could still have Chicago Marathon, or Hartford, Illinois, or Tough Mudder." And, from a runner's perspective, that seems valid. From a logistics perspective, there's probably smoke coming out of all of your ears, right? So let's talk a little bit about, understanding why people are doing your event. How do you create the essence of that event? What's that going to look like in 2021 as we're going forward? And I think one of the interesting things, let me point out to everybody, is Mike, we know you have a big event in Q1 and Q4. Jan, you have one event in Q2. Kyle has events across the country, across the world all the time. And Beth, one major event in Q4, but events throughout the year. And so little different perspectives. What might be, Jan, let's start with you, because you're in a tough spot here.
Yeah. Well, I'm worried about whether we'll be able to have a race in April of 2021, to the point where if I knew in June what I know now, we probably wouldn't have opened registration, because we really have to have a clear path, and we don't want to give false hope. I personally don't feel like we can do our 2021 race as a virtual event. I mean, I think the next time we come together, whenever that is, it has to be in person. So we're thinking of other cool virtual things that we can do to engage our audience, and we'll probably get to that. But yeah, I mean, we all know that we have, for large events like ours, it's vaccine plus some number of months. And so if we can get a backup date in the fall, that would certainly be our hope, Jeff, with the university. But they're still up in the air because of fall football. And so I feel like we're kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern, not to dodge the bullet, but.
I hear, I'm seeing that with a lot of big Q1, Q2 events looking to move. Let me bring that to you, Mike. You've got a March event and a Q4. What's 2021 looking like to you? How are you going to get people out, or are you?
Well, that's what we're hoping Jeff and Running USA can help us with, in terms of getting the confidence of the runners to come out in person if we're able to do so safely. 2021 and I think we're learning a lot in terms of 2020, from the cancellation of all of our events to going virtual. At least we'll have one advantage, is a little bit more time to understand what we could potentially do in a virtual environment at the beginning of next year, just like Jan had mentioned. I think we will all run into some of the virtual fatigue when it comes to virtual racing. And to Jan's point, are there opportunities to take a look at other ways to engage and create challenges virtually, at least to get us over to the hump, maybe the first two quarters of next year. And then, again, our plan and goal and objective will be to create an in-person event when it comes to the marathon next fall. And right now we're doing everything that we can to take a look at these different options. And everyone on this call knows how hard it is in a regular year to come up with these different strategies, whether it's from an operational aspect, whether it's from registration just for an in-person event. And now we have to do all that plus coming up with these different variables when it comes to virtual events, virtual experiences, and then how can we tie all that in? How could we go in terms of an in-person registration launch, as well as maybe have to at some point flip to virtual again, and whether that's even viable next year, just again knowing the fatigue that might be out there with so many different virtual events, which is great to see that we've been trying to find a way to stay engaged, to stay connected, to ensure that we have brand relevance through this year. However, I think the participants and customers might get a little tired of doing the same virtual type of events year after year, event after event. I hope it's not year after year. Yeah, sorry about that, but again, I think our goal is to plan for the in-person, but know that there could be the possibility that we have to launch in a virtual aspect for the event.
Kyle, Beth, what's your outlook for 2021?
I mean, maybe I'm a bit more, hopefully, optimistic. We've got events overseas that are already starting to come back online. Our sister company is running events in the UK in October and November. And even given kind of the challenges that the UK has had in containing things, they've really supported the emphasis of outdoor athletic events being safe with an appropriate amount of social distancing. Triathlons resumed in the UK. Running events on a smaller scale have resumed, and we're sitting here in September, right? So the hope is that by the time we get into the spring, that we've been able to build a body of evidence, globally that says it is safer to be outside, where you've got good ventilation and clean air, and people can spread apart from each other, and you can create your events in a way where everything is going to look different. That's that is for sure, right? Some of the high touch considerations we've had in the past, indoor expos and hospitality areas and post-race parties and breakfasts and dinners and some of the other kind of wraparound things may disappear for a little bit of time or maybe significantly altered. But our ability to let people come out and hopefully engage in the athletic experience together with some modifications, I'm optimistic that that consumer confidence is going to start to shift back in that direction as things start to normalize and people start to get a bit more comfortable with the notion that a vaccine may not even fully take this away, right? We don't know that yet. A lot of people have pegged their future on a vaccine to say, this comes and it solves the problem. Much like the flu, this could be something that we live with for some time, and we just learn how to manage it and work around it, and create systems and structures that help protect our athletes while also allowing them to have those shared fitness experiences that they are currently craving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I'm looking at if we're lucky, we will be able to put on the Hartford Marathon next fall, if we're lucky. I don't know that the herd immunity will be at that point in the United States where people are going to feel confident enough to come out. And you have to look at when all of us put on events that are big money events that cost a lot of money to put on. And the only way you can afford to put them on is by having as many people as we do have come out to support the events. And are they going to support them? So we're going to continue to do virtual events. We're finding with the virtual events, and we've been putting on a lot of virtual events, either 10-day 100-mile challenges or 30-day huge challenges or whatever. And we host in-person packet pickups for people. They are just so thankful for this motivation that we're giving them to continue to run and stay fit. So is there fatigue of virtual races? Yes, but it's really all we all have right now to keep people motivated. So as we come back with smaller wave starts and more social distant events, people have to support them or we can't afford to put them on.
Those are really good points, and I want to touch on virtual, which almost all of you have mentioned here. So right now, it seems that within the industry, the virtual events are a replacement for actual events. You know, as we move towards hopefully getting people back at our events, where do you guys think that virtual plays a role? And is it, you know, when it's no longer needed for a replacement for a weekend, how does it fit into your plans? Beth, you want to start that one?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's going to be a place for virtual events now and in the future. A virtual event is really convenient for people. They can run it whenever they can fit it in their schedules and wherever they choose to run. So they may, while in-person will be the preferred method as long as you can fit it all in, virtual is going to be a good option for people. So we plan to offer that option with everything we do as we go into the future.
Yeah, that's been a real light bulb that went on for everybody, because we have people, you know, we have this universe of people that love to do our race, and maybe they do it every year or every third year or every second year. Maybe sometimes they can't do it because they're just away that weekend. But if you gave them the opportunity to register and do it virtually, boom, you've got them back even though they're not in your city. So that, I agree with you, Beth, you know, we're going to keep doing. You said a word earlier, which is challenge. I think, Jeff, you hit it on the head. In the early iteration of virtual, it was 1-for-1. We had this in-person race, and now we have this virtual. And now that it's like a little bit yawn, we're looking as event directors, what can we come up with that's new, that engages our participants while we wait for the real in-person event to come back? And so the challenge idea, which is typically over a number of days, many more miles with teams, however you want to organize it, we're getting ready to launch something called Let's Raise Some Illinois, which is going to be a run from the north to the south or the east, west to the east in the state. And we're super excited to be kind of building this out right now. And it'll be a 5-month challenge. It gives somebody something to do that's fun and isn't the same as I was going to do this race in Topeka and now I have to do it, you know, virtually. So I think the virtual challenge is the next frontier for virtual, personally.
I think virtual got off to a little bit of a rough start. You know, and I think many race directors, you know, for good reasons, switched their live events to try to be virtual events as a means of, you know, retaining, you know, customers who were otherwise going to be displaced, or trying to be able to deliver, you know, a warehouse full of shirts and medals that they otherwise didn't have anything to do with. And that early kind of transactional experience of, you know, run a 5K, run a half marathon, you know, post us your Strava results and we'll send you something in the mail. You know, it kind of gave people an initial gut reaction as to what a virtual event or a virtual race was. And, you know, we've seen so many interesting and exciting things, you know, come out in the industry over the course of the past couple of months. I think the tide's turning, actually. People are certainly fatigued with, you know, the transactional basic ones, and not just athletes, but let's remember partners and sponsors as well, right? It's very hard to deliver value for a partner in a one-day transactional, you know, run around your block and we'll mail you a medal virtual event. But you start to get people engaged for 10 days or 30 days and doing a longer format, you know, challenge where you can, you know, deliver content to them and email them and host virtual, you know, check-ins and, you know, wrap-up parties and other things. You start to have a lot more assets to confer for sponsors, which, as we know, is a key driver for, you know, keeping this industry and our events alive as well. So I think that there is great opportunity. I think the challenge is going to be for, you know, those of us who've always been event-first organizations to become more digitally savvy, right? You know, customers are going to start to expect that it's not just, you know, a Google form that you submit your race results on. They're going to want to see integrations and leaderboards and, you know, and technology that's interactive and responsive. And, you know, there's been some upstart companies who've popped up here in, you know, the midst of the pandemic who are only doing virtual events and virtual races, and they've got very sleek looking swag, and they've got very sleek looking technology and pretty low overhead because it's one person, sitting behind a garage full of stuff and a nice website, who's been able to get people motivated. So it's for an industry like ours that's been really focused on delivering incredible in-person experiences for some time. Becoming digitally savvy is a big step.
And I think
I do have to say, I'm sorry, Mike, but I do have to say, boy, our registration companies are really raising their game for us. They're helping us do that. So, I do think that's a really good point, Kyle. And I think you'll see a lot of changes in the next year, thanks to the registration companies that we work with.
Oh, definitely. And along the same lines, I think there's one barrier that all of our events face, and that's geography. And it becomes a barrier for a lot of participants to be able to come to our events. And I think the virtual experience and virtual races and distances enable people to get involved and participate no matter where they are. So we're able to take that experience to them, and so they can be and stay involved if travel becomes or continues to be a barrier in the future. I think, some of the other things that Kyle touched upon, and we all know, is like right now we're trying to find ways to be able to give back or give some visibility to our partners and sponsors. But I believe that this will become a vehicle in the future to extend and create more entitlements for our sponsors. So if you can take a look at not just a virtual race for participants to take part in, we're also able to connect with our participants and to create a longer runway and finding different points of engagement earlier on in their journey and training cycle. So think at the point of an acceptance, or from a drawing standpoint you could do something fun on a platform, and from a virtual expo, virtual main stage, and doing something to really engage and kick things off. At the beginning of a training season, we've been thinking about, hey, the virtual expo that we'll be launching with the Bank of America Chicago Marathon virtual experience. That'd be really cool to be able to do at the beginning of training. So we've always done something in the local market, and we're always there doing something with them here because we're accessible. But now we're going to be able to say, hey, why don't we do a training expo and make it available to everyone around the world that's signed up, and then take that opportunity to our sponsors, create that platform to get them excited. So there's been a lot that we will be able to do. Whether it's the virtual races that we're creating for the participants, or even like this, what are we doing about video conferencing, and how can we leverage that to our participants and make these opportunities and these meetups with elite athletes, with the organizers. So I think you're going to see a confluence of all this technology being leveraged in the future to deepen those experiences with our participants, with our volunteers, with our stakeholders and partners.
I think that's a really great point, and you all kind of touched on it too, especially with virtual runs. As from an athlete perspective, right now we are very much transactional. As you said, Kyle, it's send in your money, we'll send you a package and go for a run. But what happens when we start bringing audio into it, right? Or when we start bringing connectivity with your friends who are also running at the same time, and all of a sudden we are creating a true virtual experience that has all sorts of elements around it, not just I touched my medal, but I'm hearing and maybe I'm envisioning what I'm running by. And so I think there's, technology is being really pushed, and there's some really interesting things coming down the line.
And Jeff, I would just, one more thought there. Let's not forget too that what people crave is human interaction, in-person experiences, right? So the trick here is figuring out how to be able to deliver an experience that's safe, that's accessible, that breaks down the geographic barriers that Mike talked about, while also having some degree of human connectivity to it. We had done a smaller scale, but about 1,000 people globally back in August, an overnight event, 12 hours. And we got people around the world to gather and form their own little mini groups and pockets. So we had 10 people in Munich, and 15 people in Scotland, and 20 people in Toronto. And they were able to do this all simultaneously running, and doing the same kind of virtual tracking that anybody else would do, but they had the chance of interacting with each other, complying with their local regulations and complying with whatever the restrictions were, but they had a chance to be a part of a communal experience, which again is what so many of our athletes crave now in coming to our live events, right? So finding those hybrid ways to deliver something where you can, even remote, high five somebody, or or virtually give the head nod that you both accomplished and finished the same thing means a lot to people emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love talking to all of you, especially getting it you guys together in one virtual room. We have to wrap this up, but let me ask one last question that I'd like for each of you to touch on is, what has happened, or what have you seen happened in your life, personal or professional, over the past months during the global pandemic that you really hope will stick around when we're on the other side of this? And Mike, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think, I think hopefully, personally, I'll keep my stretching going. But I think from a bigger picture and everything else, I really think, some of the things that we've really had to become more resilient in terms of really testing internally, whether it's work-wise, professionally, personally, family-wise, learning to be more patient, having more compassion and understanding. And I think all of us and how we're working and living these days will really test us, and hopefully we'll learn from this and be able to continue to exhibit that and carry that on with us beyond what we're experiencing right now.
Great. Jan?
I would have to say, for me, I live by myself. I'm a widow. My boys are young men, so they have lives. So I spend a lot of time by myself. But Zoom has been my lifeline, and to be able to, use that to connect not just to family and loved ones, but to other friends that I might see at races, to continue that connectivity that we've all craved and that has fed our spirit as we have, in varying degrees, kept quarantine or just, kept out of the normal flow of life. I hope that we keep those connections that we've reforged with past friends and family, because I think it's been a real gift during this time. And so that's what I hope I don't lose.
Beth?
I take both what Mike and Jan said, and as you usually would start a conversation with someone saying, "How you doing? You okay?" And then you don't wait for an answer because you're not really listening. And I've found that in the last 6 months, I really listen when people answer that question or when I ask that question. It's just much more compassion, much more in touch with what we could possibly lose. That's important.
Kyle?
Yeah, COVID has done an incredible job in bringing our team much closer together. And I think that has been, talk about silver linings and unintended benefits. In the early days, we had a bunch of production people, operations people who had no events to produce and quickly became blog writers and content creators and customer service representatives and jumped in to help wherever help was needed. And the long time kind of barriers that exist in any sort of sports organization where operations people don't understand marketing and marketing people don't understand partnerships and vice versa. All of those barriers and walls kind of disappeared pretty quickly in the beginning part because it became this collective effort of what needs to happen to make sure we can take care of our customers and we can generate revenue and we can chart a path towards operating safe events in the future. And so much of the silos and barriers and kind of internal politics that may have existed in the past disappeared in favor of, hey, we're in this situation together, we're going to go through a bunch of shared adversity and we're going to pull together and do whatever it takes to get through that. And so many lessons that you'd have never been able to manufacture, or communicate if you tried to in an organized environment happened naturally over the course of the past 6 months. And our team is that much stronger for it. They're that much more well-rounded, and they have a much deeper respect for what each other does on a daily basis than they ever did coming into this, which has been pretty powerful to see.
was wonderful. Yeah, and so my one thing is really taking what the four of you said and putting it as one, because you said it more eloquently than I can ever. So I agree with everything you all said. Thank you. Beth Schluger, Colin McLaughlin, Mike Nishi, Jan Seeley, thank you very much for this conversation and for letting us all know what's going on in the minds of the people making it happen.
And I want to thank you as the host of this. I want to thank my friend Jeff for agreeing to moderate this conversation. And I want to thank you all for just allowing me to pick up the phone and call you and saying, would you be a part of this? And of course, the answer was, of course I will. And that's what's great about our industry. So thank you.
We love you, Beth. We love you, Beth.
Yeah, love you too. Stay well. Stay
Okay. See ya.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, it was another great episode on the Run Network presented to you from Hartford Marathon Foundation. Now, no one has a crystal ball. Everything's been changed upside down by this pandemic, the road racing world included. But seeing the stories from those road race directors all across America, you know what I see? I see a bunch of starting lines all over the place. Road race directors getting that starter's pistol going, runners towing the line. That's what I see. And with the innovation from these directors, we'll get there. Until then, the Hartford Marathon Foundation would like to say, thank you for joining us. Good luck, and we look forward to seeing you on the road. Cheers from the Hartford Marathon.